This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. Welcome to our Buttercream Masterclass. In this one, we're using a round tip, specifically a number 12, which is what most beginners will have in kind of any kit. If you don't have a number 12 tip, you can use any large round tip to do these designs. We're going to do 4 of them. We're going to do a fun pearl border, a zigzag design that'll allow you to cover the sides of your cakes, a lovely teardrop flower design that's going to be fantastic for covering the top, and finally a tab design that you can use to cover the sides of your cakes as well. These are all really simple techniques that are geared towards beginners, and they're going to allow you to do a variety of different things and potentially cover up some problem areas that you're still having while decorating. So let's talk about our first technique we're going to do with one of our round tips. We're using a number 12 tip for this one, and it's just a great easy way to finish off either the top or bottom edge of your cake. So we're going to create a pearl border, and we're going to do this by holding that bag at a 45-degree angle. Right? So think about this in relation to the surface that you're going to be piping on. So if it's that bottom edge of the cake, it might be the cake board. If it's the top edge, then it's the top of that cake. So we're got it at a nice 45-degree angle there. And we're just going to squeeze a dot, right? And make it nice and full. And when it's full, we're going to pull that bag down and away. So kind of just slide it on that 45-degree angle. Just kind of try to imagine a line there, and we're just pulling like that. And that's going to create a nice little tail. So then what we're going to do is continue. We're going to pipe another dot so it covers up that little tail, and it ends up chaining them together and creating this effect of a chain of pearls or a string of beads. So let's practice a little on our tray, and then we'll get our cake out and we'll do a border on the bottom edge. So we're just going to hold it kind of up off the surface. I'm at a nice 45-degree angle, not too far away. We want it to create, if the paper doesn't move, a nice full dot, and then we're going to pull down and away. And then I'm going to keep going, create a nice full dot, pull down and away, really close together. And you can see that really quickly creates that nice little look of those really round beads that are just joined together. So now that we've gotten a little practice on our tray, let's pull out our cake and work on that. So we've practiced on our tray. Now let's try a pearl border on our cake. See, we've got a nice cake. It's iced in our same pink frosting. Mix up the colors as you want, but this is a great one for covering up the bottom edge of your cake if it still looks a little rough, or even that top edge, that transition from the sides to the top. If you don't get crisp, clean transitions yet and you want to kind of hide that, doing a little border on the top is a great way to hide that as well. But we're just going to do it on the bottom today, nice and quick and easy. You can see I'm piping and I'm imagining my angle, my 45-degree angle, in relationship to the board, right? Because I'm piping this little border right here on the bottom on that board. So the tip is right next to the cake. I'm going to just squeeze my dot and pull down quickly and just keep going. There we go. So nice and close together, short tails. So that you get that nice look of a beautiful kind of string of beads or pearls. And you want to just keep going. Until you make it all the way back around to the beginning. And with borders like this, the end is always the hardest. And you just want to finish it with a nice dot. So you can see we end up with a nice border that easily hides any flaws on that bottom of the cake. So let's talk about a zigzag. This is an easy one. We're just going to pipe lines on the side of our cake, but the pattern we create with our tip is what's going to give it interest. So this is a great way to cover imperfections on the sides. So if your sides are still a little lumpy, maybe got some crumbs in there, you want to cover it up, this is a good way to do it. We're going to hold the bag at a 45-degree angle in relationship to the surface, and we just want to have that tip grazing against the surface because we want the frosting to make contact and to stick and to adhere. So we're just going to lightly drag it on the surface of our cake, and we're going to use the little wiggle zigzag motion. So basically think of it like a little snake, and we're just going to snake along the side of our cake, and we're going to do it by pulling in an upward motion. So we're going to get a nice little pattern that's vertical and has some interest to it. So it can also kind of help create the illusion of some height and can really, just give you a little bit of texture and a little design detail on the surface, allow you to practice your piping, but also be very forgiving. So it's a nice one. So we're just going to go and create this beautiful zigzag pattern just by laying those lines right next to each other. So you just basically pick a width and go with it. And if you go nice and slow, it's easy, just nice pressure there to create that cute little wiggle pattern. And I'm doing this with our number 12 tip, but you could do it with any size tip. Bigger tip will give you bigger lines, smaller, and you can even do it with star tips to add on some texture. So it's a great one just to add a little detail and interest up the side of a cake. So now that we've practiced a little on our tray, we're going to pull our cake out and do this on the sides of our cake. So let's start our zigzag pattern on the side of our cake. We've practiced a little on the tray, and we're going to go in and just pick a spot and start piping. And you can try and make your little zigzag columns the same width, or you can vary it up and do some skinnier, some fatter to create a nice little pattern and interest on your cake. Do whatever works best for you and whatever you find easiest. But I like to just go for it and just really start in there. You can see, just pick a spot and just start working up the side. Just try to keep your width on each column the same. And really let that frosting flow out so you get a nice full line. You can see it's really easy to create these nice little vertical stripes. I can do my next one the same width, or try to do the same width, or I can make it fatter or skinnier to make a fun pattern going all the way around my cake. So I'm just going to keep working. And I think I'm going to vary up the size and width of mine. So I'm going to do a skinny one next. So just nice and short. And then I'm going to go for a nice fat one. So you can see I get those different widths in there, and it gives me just a little bit of interest, a little bit of detail, and this is a great way to cover up those sides of the cake if you don't like them yet. This will use up quite a bit of frosting, so make sure you have plenty on hand, and also reload your bag as needed. And just create a nice, fun design for yourself, and really just try and focus on your piping skills as you go. So I'm going to reload my bag and keep working. So we've been working on our cake. You can see we've varied our widths. We've got a nice fun pattern going. We've got these great little vertical lines that almost look like old-fashioned ribbon candy, and we're coming back to the end. So you just want to pick a size for those last couple of rows so you have room to put them in and they look nice and clean. And just remember, this is one of those ones, slow and steady will win the race and will give you a nice looking cake. And if you ended up not going perfectly, right, I went a little off on that first line, just take up that room, go a little wider to accommodate it so that you're filling in that whole pattern. These don't have to be perfect to look great. There's a lot of easy things you can do, like mixing up the colors, doing rose and multiple different shades of pink, or even working in other colors. You got a nice clean top on there. If you want to put on some sprinkles, do some writing, add some flowers or candles. This makes a nice, simple design for a birthday cake that'll cover up any flaws you have on your sides. So our next design is going to be a teardrop flower, and we're going to do it on top of our cake. So we're just going to use these little piped teardrop shapes to create a flower pattern. So super simple technique, but combining them in an interesting way is going to give us a lovely effect, and it's going to be a great way for hiding the top of your cake. So if you haven't gotten a handle on getting it smooth or just getting it perfectly level, this is a nice way to hide those imperfections. So we're going to hold our bag at a 45-degree angle in relationship to the surface that we're piping on, so in this case the top of the cake or practicing on our tray, and we're going to pipe a nice dot, and when it's reached its full width, we're going to pull down, right, and away, and that's going to give us our nice teardrop shape. So we're still going to be giving it a little bit of pressure as we're pulling, and that's going to give us that nice shape to it. Now we're going to repeat this simple technique. We're going to pipe the same thing over and over again, but we're going to use a nice little pattern to do it to create our effect. So we're going to start piping those petals all the way around the outside edge, right? And each one we're going to pull towards the center. So if you need to, pipe a small dot in the center of your cake and use that as a reference. Every time you pull one of these little tails, right, one of these teardrop shapes, that little point on the end should be facing towards that little dot that you've made in the center of your cake. And then we're going to repeat that. Once we go all the way around the outside edge, we're going to pull our bag in a little bit, and we're going to make another row of those teardrop shaped petals, kind of overlapping the ends of the ones before. I like to kind of nest them in between, and that's going to give us a nice effect, right? It's going to give us these petals that kind of pull towards the center of our cake and create this overall flower pattern. When you go to finish it, obviously you can't just do one single teardrop in the middle. I like to either finish it with just a plain dot or a heart. So two of these combined in a V shape. And it makes a nice little pattern and a sweet little design. It has an overall floral feel, and it's a great way to cover the top of the cake. So now that we've talked about what we're going to do, let's practice it on the tray really quickly. We're going to hold our bag at a 45-degree angle. We're going to pipe a nice dot, and when we reach that full width, we're going to pull, right, and pull towards the tray, and that's going to give us that wonderful teardrop shape that we're looking for. We're going to pipe these all the way around the edge of our cake and then do concentric circles to make our flower pattern. So we've practiced piping our teardrop shapes on our tray. Let's go ahead and start practicing on our cake. I'm just going to go ahead and put a small little dab of frosting there in the center. That's just going to help me visualize that center point of my cake, and I'm going to pull all my teardrops towards the center petal, and that's going to line them all up in the right direction so we get our nice flower effect. So just pick an area where it's comfortable for you to pipe and just start piping those teardrop shapes and line kind of the bag up on an angle so that no matter which way you're piping, you're always piping towards that dot, right? And I'm just going to start, pipe a teardrop, and pull towards the center. So we're just going to repeat, and you can nest these super close together, or you can even give them a little bit of space, but you can see how all those tails are pointing towards that center dot. That means that when I go in and put them on in concentric circles, all the petals are going to be moving in that same direction. It's going to look really, really beautiful. So just go ahead and keep piping and work on creating your pattern. So once you do one full circle, you want to pull yourself a little closer in to start your next row, and I like to nest it between two. So we're just going to make another row of these petals a little closer in. And we're going to keep going until we fill in the entire surface area of the top of our cake. So you can see it only took me 3 quick rows to finish covering most of the cake. I'm going to do a 4th, and then I'm going to finish with a little dot. If you want to get a little more intricate, you can finish it with a little heart, but you can see all of these petals are just kind of meeting up there in that central point. Just go till you've got it all covered, and then it's the perfect little spot for a nice dot in the center, just to finish things off and give us that wonderful floral look. And as you can see, we've completely covered the top of our cake. It's really a simple, easy, single technique to create a lovely, intricate pattern that has a nice floral feel. You could stick a couple flowers on it, a few candles, write a message on the side. It makes a lovely design for birthdays and a variety of different special occasions. Our next design is going to be a series of cute little buttercream tabs that we're going to do on the side of our cake. And this is a great one if you're not quite perfect at, say, piping your dots or balls or doing any of those teardrop shapes that we've been doing, and you want to get some practice in, but the finished result doesn't necessarily look like a dot. And this is an easy way to cover the sides and also get some great practice in. And it's also a great one if you're looking to create something like ombre effect or even put on a rainbow. And we're going to hold the bag at a 90-degree angle in relation to the surface that we're piping on. And we're going to pipe that dot, right? And instead of pulling away to finish it, we're going to slide the bag down, kind of digging into the frosting at the kind of angle that we like, nice kind of 45-degree angle. So basically you're going to dig in and extend the dot kind of horizontally. So it's going to give it this nice little tab shape that looks almost like someone's taken a spatula and applied frosting to the side of the cake, but it's going to be a little more controlled. So it's going to create a nice little controlled effect for you. We're going to use these tabs and do a nice ring around the bottom, and then we're going to work our way up the side of the cake, and that's going to create our overall pattern and effect. And it's a great way to use it to cover the sides, and even you can also use it to cover the top of the cake. You can just go around in concentric circles. And it's a wonderful way to create rainbow patterns and also ombre patterns. And it can be used to cover the sides, the top, or both if you'd like. So now that we've talked a little bit about it, let's practice a little on our sheet, because this one does come down to kind of rate and control. And the first thing we want to do is just be straight up and down. We're hovering up above the surface so we can create a nice full dot, which normally we'd just go ahead and finish. But in this case, instead of finishing it, we're going to get a nice full dot and pull down and in. And you can see that digs into that dot, gives you that little indent and that nice little swipe effect with it. So it's going to create this little dig or almost pocket in that dot and kind of extend it out a little further, and it gives us those great little kind of swipe effects, or tabs as I like to call them. You can call them whatever you want, and they're a great and effective way to cover the sides of your cakes. They're fantastic and really easy to do, and they're really kind of forgiving as well. So they don't all have to be perfectly the same size, they don't all have to be perfectly the same shape, and it's a great way for practicing that first part of the dot. If you're still not good at finishing them, this one you're just digging into it to create that nice little swipe effect, so you don't even have to worry about how it's finished. But it's a great one for practicing those dots and kind of building up to them, and also giving you a nice easy way to finish the sides of your cake. So let's get started on our cake. We want to pick a spot to start with, and I'm going to start down at the bottom, work all the way around, and then work up the sides. This is going to allow you to kind of line up those tabs or nest them as desired. And you can also change your colors. And we want to work kind of straight, right? In comparison to the cake, right? So my bag is kind of perpendicular to that surface so that I can pipe a nice clean dot and then dig in to get that lovely swipe effect. And then I'm just going to keep going, and I'm just going to pipe kind of on the tail of each swipe. So dot and swipe in. And it's going to give you these beautiful little buttercream swooshes. And you want to try and kind of line each one up and get those tails about the same length. And once you get into it, you should develop a bit of a rhythm, and it should make it a little bit easier. You'll notice I'm piping with my right hand and I'm kind of bracing that bag with my left. And this is going to end up creating a nice busy pattern. So if some of them aren't perfect, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. And just anytime you need to, because you are digging into the frosting, clean off the end of your tip to make it easier to pipe a clean dot. So you notice periodically I will just clean off the front end of that tip, because sometimes if there's frosting there, it can affect the way it comes out and can kind of make it curl and do other things that aren't necessarily desirable. So you can see this is a great way to create a border, but also to cover the sides of your cake. And once we finish a row, we have a decision to make whether we want to keep it the same color or change our color up. So if I wanted to create an ombre pink, I could just add some white buttercream or some liquid whitener to my frosting and keep going. But if I want to, I can just go ahead and do it all the same color. That's really up to you. So I think I'm just going to do a nice monochromatic look with this and keep it the same color, but it's really easy. Every time you finish the row, you can lighten your frosting a little bit to make a really easy ombre effect. And we're just going to keep going up the side of our cake. And I'm just going to line these up so that I get those nice tabs there. And you can line them up so that the tabs are right on top of each other and make these kind of even rows, both vertically and horizontally, or you can nest them inside. So if you really want to cover up those sides, start in between two, and that'll really take up more of that surface area and you'll see less of the background color. But this lining them up both horizontally and vertically is a great way to allow just a little bit of that background color to show through. So say if you wanted to do a darker color for the background and a lighter color for your piping, that'd be a great way to create a nice little two-tone effect with some of it peeking through. So as you can see, it's easy. It'll probably only take me 4 or 5 rows to finish covering the side of my cake. I'm going to keep working and we'll show you how we finish it up. So you can see we've been working on covering the sides of our cake, and it's a quick and easy way. It only took us a couple of minutes to really fill in all of this, and you can see it's only going to take us 5 rows. So I'm going to just go ahead and pop in this last row right here along the top, and this is a really great one if you want to practice piping on the sides of your cake, but you're not ready to say maybe do lines or more complex piping or writing. It's going to help build up your confidence, but it's also a great one for consistency. You're doing the same motion over and over again. You can really work on getting the size, shape of all of your little tabs, dots, or whatever the same. So it's a nice repetitive motion that's going to help you practice, and it's also really forgiving in terms of it's creating a nice busy pattern, so you're probably not going to see a lot of the little imperfections and little kind of hiccups that you might have. So it's a great way to not only cover the sides of your cake with a fun, beautiful design, it leaves a nice open area on the top that you could then cover with kind of concentric circles the same way if you want to, if the top of your cake's not exactly looking spectacular at the moment. Or you could leave it open, do some writing, throw in some sprinkles, candles, or flowers, and you have a lovely kind of beautiful design that's perfect for any occasion. Just mix up the colors and change up the design easily. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more about the cake decorating materials and equipment we use, or just some inspirational videos about cake decorating itself, you can follow us on Insta or YouTube at Cake Decorating School. If you'd like to know more about yearly membership and what it entails, you can go to www.cakedecorating.school.com for more information. And if you're interested in these products, you can check the links in the description.